Riders, and welcome to another episode of Testing Rides. Today, I'm going to be testing out the 2023 Cadillac Escalade Luxury Premium. Welcome to the 2023 Cadillac Escalade. The fifth generation, this is the fifth generation of the Cadillac Escalade introduced for the 2021 model year. And Cadillac had some big changes that had to be made because the big full-size luxury SUV is a very popular market. It's a very popular market nowadays, and there's a lot of options in this class. And Cadillac really had to step their game up in order to still be one of the best in the game. How have they done it?
So this is the 2023 Cadillac Escalade, and all Escalades come standard with the 6.2-liter V8 making 420 horsepower and 460 foot-pounds of torque. Since this is a full-size luxury SUV, it does weigh over 5,600 pounds and gets a not very good 14 in the city and 19 out on the highway. But honestly, this is actually worse than the previous generation. I feel like this vehicle has gotten much bigger, which makes sense for the worst fuel economy numbers.
This is the 2023 Cadillac Escalade Premium Luxury. And the premium luxury trim of the Cadillac Escalade is like the mid-range model, and it starts at about $90,000. This one has the Super Cruise feature option. That's the only really option that this one has outside of what's standard with the premium luxury. And that's an additional $2,500 on the price. So with those options, this Cadillac Escalade is about $93,000. And honestly, it makes perfect sense because inside and out, this Cadillac is really nice, but we'll talk about that more on the tour of the vehicle. So let's go ahead and take a look around to see how nice this new Escalade is. Hey GoPro, stop. Welcome to the walk around of the 2023 Cadillac Escalade. Let's go ahead and start here in the front. So, here in the front of the 2023 Cadillac Escalade, Cadillac made the new Escalade kind of familiar from the last one. So it has those big horizontal lights that are the daytime running lights, and also the LED turn signal. So I'll go ahead and unlock the vehicle here. You can see they blink at you. And during the daytime, just those light up for a little bit, because it's not nighttime, so the headlights will turn on as well. But I think the front of the new Escalade looks really, really nice, really sleek, but not like too aggressive. Coming on the side, this does have the standard 22-inch wheels, which I like this wheel design a lot, wrapped in the Bridgestone tires. But honestly, I definitely don't think that you need to go any bigger than these, because I think this is a pretty good looking wheel for the Escalade. Let's go step back just a little bit. So from the side profile, they made the greenhouse of the Escalade a little bit lower and sleeker than the last one. Like, to me, this looks more like luxurious than before. It looks like a modern luxury SUV, not something like from 2010, which honestly the last Escalade kind of looked like to me. But I think it looks really nice. Coming around to the rear, when you unlock it, it has the big light bar that goes up and down in the rear, and then also has LED turn signals as well. As you see, it does have the automatic folding mirrors now, connected to the key fob. And then it has these exhausts that are integrated into the bumper, and there's the cover in the middle for like the trailer hitch if this one had that option. And then it has Escalade there. It has the Cadillac badge printed into the back, which is really cool. And then it has the 600, which I believe is the Newton meters of torque of this V8 engine. Because Cadillac is moving to that, of course, because the transition to electric, so that is eventually coming. All right, so to open up the tailgate, there's two ways. So you can either kick under the bumper, like so. And it opens up. And also you can press the Cadillac badge to open it up. So this does have the third row seat looking inside. You have the subwoofer for the AKG sound system, and then the third row goes up and down with these buttons, which is nice. That seats up a little bit so it's not going all the way down. So I'm gonna go ahead and close it up. So coming up to the rear, you can unlock all the doors. You can just hit the little pads back there. The lights flash and the mirrors unfold. And here's the back seat. So what's really nice is this does have the panoramic sunroof now. It has the Cadillac badge, that's the kind of the Cadillac symbol that's printed into the seats there. It's really nice. These are perforated and heated in the rear. You got your own climate control for the rear, and you got some Type-C USB ports as well. And you also have some speakers here in the rear, and then you can lock and unlock your door here if that's what you need back here, or you can lock it out if you have kids in the back seat. So let's go ahead and take a look around at the driver cockpit area. All right, let's go get in the driver's seat and see how everything is in there. So to unlock the car, just grab the door handle, and then it has a little lock notch right there. It's like the shape of a Cadillac badge. I think that's pretty cool. All right, welcome to the interior of the 2023 Cadillac Escalade. So with this new generation of Cadillac Escalade, they really changed things around. Like when you look around the vehicle, they've improved things quite a bit. Like all the things that you touch and feel in the car is pretty nice. Nothing really feels too cheap. Steering wheel feels really nice. This does have Super Cruise, and that's why you see this bar up here, and we'll talk about that later in the video. Let's go ahead and turn on the car. So on the left side here is really cool because this is how you flip through all your menus now. Change the mode of the gauge cluster. Here's your map view. And the augmented reality version. I really like this view in here, but it's a little bit distracting. So that's why I just mainly use the gauge. And then you got your heads up display controls there. And I don't know if you can see the heads up display just up there, which is really nice. It's nice, big and clear. In the gauge cluster screen is really nice because you can see what song you're listening to, and then you got your MPGs over there. You got your tachometer over there, and then your speedometer in the middle, then your gas gauge over there. Looking over to the middle here, you do have an Apple CarPlay and Android Auto that's wireless, which is really nice. But let's go to the main screen. So this new Cadillac infotainment system is really nice and really smooth. The navigation looks really nice actually. Even though I didn't use it, it looks really nice. You have your rear climate options here where you can turn it on and off. So I'm gonna just turn it off. You also have the option to like lock it out or just sync with the front, which is pretty nice. Have all your stuff over here. So your audio, your nav, your phone, vehicle information there, which is pretty nice. You got all these different gauges that would used to normally be in the gauge cluster screen, but it's now here in the infotainment system, which is pretty nice. You got your brake pad life, which this is all really useful information. So if you go through that, you can choose what view that you want, which is really nice. I like that so like if you're used to a certain view or another view, you can flip through them, which is really awesome. So let's go back to the main screen. So this does have the feature where you can park where the vehicle self-park. I mean, it has Super Cruise, so it makes sense that this would be able to park itself. So let's go back home. So if you flip that through the menu, you have your options for your My Cadillac. So it's loading up here. So this tells you all the things that you need to know about your vehicle, which is pretty nice. Tells you recalls that you just saw there. All right, here's your ambient lighting settings, which is really nice. You can turn up the brightness, turn down the brightness, change the colors, which is really cool. This does have a video recorder, which is awesome. And you just got to have the SD card in there to do that. And then all the cameras. So this Escalade has a lot of cameras. So I'm going to sit you guys down for a second. So you can flip through all the different angles, so wide, overhead, side, so you don't curb any wheels. And then that brings you outside to like an exterior shot, like a third-person shot of the vehicle, which is pretty cool. I don't really know when this is useful. I haven't really found a use for it, but I think it's still really cool. Somebody in comments below think about a situation where this might be useful. But honestly, the cameras are very clear. Then you have the rearview mirror camera, which is really clear and everything. All the cameras in this car are very clear and very well. Oh, shit. The camera system in this car is very clear. Like the rearview mirror camera is so clear that you can see the people that are in the cars behind you. You can see their faces pretty clearly, which is pretty cool, honestly. And then all of your park cameras are very clear. So like, no, you shouldn't depend on your cameras 100% to park, but you really could if you were in a situation where you couldn't see much of anything else, which is always a good sign, especially at a vehicle that's not over $90,000. So looking down, you do have the Cadillac shifter that a lot of the Cadillacs have. Is actually honestly very similar to what you see in like what you used to see in BMWs in like the late 2010s and early 20s. And honestly, I think BMW just recently changed their shifters away from something like this. Like I know I have my 2014 328 GT, and mine has the same shifter. You got your lane keep assist there, your auto stop start, and then your auto hold, and then you have a knob there to control the infotainment system. You have a wireless charger down there, which is really nice. My iPhone 12 Pro Max fits really well. You got some big cup holders there, and then a set of USB. You also have a set in the center console. Then looking across the interior, you have your climate control vents kind of hidden underneath the screen area, which is really sleek. I love this wood that's in there. Looking over there, as well on the driver's side, you have your heated seat controls or your cooled seat control or your ventilated seat controls. That nice silver trim, and then the white piping on the seats. Look at these seats. Oh my goodness, look at these seats. These seats are so comfortable. You got speakers in the headrests, and you got a good amount of adjustability as well. And of course, so with this being a full-size SUV, this is a pretty comfortable SUV for me to drive. As I'm over 6 feet tall and over 350 pounds, I'm extremely comfortable in this SUV with this big panoramic sunroof. I love this big panoramic sunroof. I love that GM finally did that. They're full-size SUVs, but honestly they had to because literally everybody else does it. So they kind of had to. But I love it. It makes this cabin open and airy, which is really nice. And honestly, just been in the last couple of days with this Escalade and touching all the buttons and feeling everything. Cadillac has really stepped up their games in terms of their interior qualities, especially with this new Escalade. Escalade is a staple for Cadillac, and it's important that the vehicles are nice. And this one really shows what Cadillac is able to do. And so with that said, let's go ahead and take it for a drive. Welcome to the driving portion of the 2023 Cadillac Escalade. Let's go ahead and head on the road and see how this thing drives. So one thing that's really interesting with this Escalade, and honestly I can't remember if it was on the last big GM SUV that I tested, was as soon as you put it in drive, it kind of sucks you back to kind of see how much seatbelt you need, which is interesting, but also sometimes it's a little bit too tight. But
So when you're driving one of these vehicles, don't be surprised by that, because that does happen. All right, so this vehicle has the 420 horsepower and 460 foot-pounds of torque. So let's go ahead and see what that's like. All right, getting out on the road of the 2023 Cadillac Escalade, the first thing I notice is how smooth and comfortable this big SUV is. Like, this thing is huge. So you sit up really high off the road, and when you drive in this vehicle, it's like you're just floating down the road like on a magic carpet. The ride is so comfortable, so nice, and honestly, it better be for a $90,000 Cadillac Escalade. So steering is really nice and easy. I love the feel of the steering wheel. It's nice, and it feels nice and substantial, and it's not like too thick like some steering wheels sometimes are, but it's like it feels really nice in your hands. Everything, all the buttons and things that you feel is that you have to interact with in this car is really easy to access. Like, I can touch everything with my thumbs. So when you're driving along here, you have a pretty good view out of the road. The windows are, so when we're looking at the side profile, I talked about how it seemed like the roof line is a little bit like lower than like other big SUVs past, and you can feel that when you're driving this vehicle. I sit up, I can see over the hood, which is pretty nice. See the corners of the SUV pretty well, and it's pretty easy to place and go around corners and things like that. And it's also pretty nice for parking in a parking spot or parallel parking or anything like that. So that's pretty awesome of this 2023 Cadillac Escalade. The other thing that I noticed is the fact that it's pretty quiet, actually. Like, you can have a hushed conversation with somebody, and you don't have to yell, which is really nice. And sometimes I know, like, even with something big like this, sometimes the interiors get a little bit loud, but like this one is pretty quiet, especially if you close the sunroof shade. The majority of the sound that I'm hearing right now is coming from the air from the sunroof here, but it's pretty good. When in the seating position, I talked about the seating being up to the corners of the vehicle. Also can see all of the gauges very clearly. With me sitting up the way I do, I can see the speedometer very clearly. I can see the infotainment screen very clearly, and I can also see my little trip computer situation screen all over here, and that's really nice. The shifter is just right there in arm's reach, and it's very ergonomic of where my hands sit to mess with the infotainment stuff. Armrest feels really nice and nice and thick and comfortable. I like the height of it. I like how the seat feels when I'm driving it. And for a lot of different body types and things like that, you can get a very good driving position in this vehicle very quickly. So honestly, with this Cadillac Escalades have always really driven really good. The fourth generation Escalade that I reviewed was I think it was a 2016 Cadillac Escalade ESV. Link down in the description below for a review of that Cadillac Escalade. But even I thought that Escalade drove really well, nice and smooth. And the one big thing that separates this one from that one is this fact that this one has the independent suspension, and because the independent suspension, the ride is even better. Like, it also, no, this is not a sports car, but this big old Escalade does go around corners pretty nicely. It goes around corners pretty comfortable and confidently. I'm not saying like pushing it. I'm just pushing this thing because I mean it is a nearly 6,000 pound full size SUV, but just going around corners, like flowing, like when you're just going around back roads, just flowing, this Escalade feels a lot better than the last Escalade did, which, you know, now they're making the Cadillac Escalade V, and it makes sense for them to put horsepower behind the way this Cadillac Escalade drives. So it drives really nice. It honestly drives like a big crossover, and I don't say that to be
mean to this vehicle, but I think that's a good thing. When driving something this big, the more comfortable and smoother it is, the better. And you don't want your big full-size SUV handling like a pickup truck. You want it to handle more crossover car-like, because that's what delivers you a very comfortable, luxurious experience. I mean, these birds almost flew into the Escalade. There's a reason why a lot of big SUVs now have independent suspension, and like, you know, the new G-Wagon, they added independent front suspension to that thing, just because the independent suspension makes the vehicle drive a lot better. And the experience that people, when they drive a vehicle like that, they want that type of luxury, comfortable, easy to drive experience, not bouncing around in the truck. So how does this compare to the competitors? So I haven't driven the new Range Rover. I've driven the last Range Rover, and I'm not even going to compare it because it's in a new generation now. But I have driven the Jeep Grand Wagoneer off camera, and I also have driven the Navigator. And the Navigator that's currently out has been facelifted, but nothing else has really changed besides that. So is this better than the Navigator? Honestly, yes, because one thing about the Navigator is the Navigator doesn't really have a whole lot of options in terms of what you could do with the suspension. So Cadillac now has an option to either you can do you can get mag ride on the Escalade, which is really good, and I believe you can get some type of similar system on the Navigator as well, but it's not the one that like GM has. And also you can get an optional air suspension on the Escalade now too, which the Range Rover's always had, and which has made the Range Rover ride as well as it did. And I have not driven a GM SUV yet with the air suspension, but I imagine any kind of issues you may have with the way this thing rides, if it's not smooth enough for you, the air suspension will solve. So one thing I also like about this Escalade, so like I always like to drive the long wheelbase versions of like the GM SUV, so like the Suburban, the Yukon XL, and like the Cadillac Escalade ESV, because I always thought that the shorter wheelbase ones rode a little bit bouncy, and this Escalade does not ride bouncy at all. I think because they did make this a little bit bigger. Nah, honestly, maybe not that. I think it's the independent suspension that makes this thing drive a lot better. And just going around these corners right here, it feels pretty confidence inspiring. Not like I'm gonna go set a new Nürburgring lap in an Escalade, but it feels really nice and it feels really secure when going around corners. And I really applaud GM and their team for doing that with this full-size SUV. Better than the Grand Wagoneer, I don't really know, honestly, because I did drive the Jeep Wagoneer, but not long enough to really compare it. So hopefully I'll be having a review of the Jeep Grand Wagoneer on the channel soon. But honestly, overall, the 2023 Cadillac Escalade is a nice, comfortable, well-driving, big luxury SUV. I enjoy driving this vehicle. It's comfortable, it looks good, it feels quality, and I can see the price of this vehicle now. Before, the last Escalade that cost $86,000 back in 2016, I couldn't really see it, because honestly, like I said, it's very similar to what you would get in a Tahoe or a Yukon Denali. But now, for this newer generation, the Cadillac has really separated themselves. From its GMC and Chevy counterpart, and I'm glad they did that, because again, with the competitive market, with the competitive full-size SUV, luxury SUV market, they can't make an SUV now that's too similar to its regular version. And all I have to say is great job to Cadillac in making an excellent SUV. Like if you're looking for a comfortable, luxurious, sleek looking, full of technology, full-size luxury SUV, you should definitely take a look at a 2023 Cadillac Escalade. Or not just a 2023, but any of the Escalades that are in the fifth generation. So that is model year 2021 and newer. So if you like this video, hit me with a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, keep riding me. Thanks for watching.